Hello, welcome to my channel. Got the Two of Swords to talk about today. I've had a really bad cold all week, so I'm going to try and get through this without coughing and spluttering. But it also means that I haven't really got that sword-like focus today, so I apologise for that. But let's just talk about how I see the Two of Swords, and maybe that will explain why I've gone for the song that I've gone for. So, Two of Swords. I've got the Rider-Waite here. I love this image from the Rider-Waite of the person balanced because it so represents, this is Moon in Libra. So it so represents what we think of that Libra personality. So Libra is associated with justice. We often think of justice as being blindfolded, as, you know, that's what allows justice to be impartial. There's also that sense of going inwards, of trusting your intuition. So I suppose that's the link with the moon. And not being, we've got a two, so there's a choice to be made, or there's a new idea coming in. But it's about maybe not being too influenced by outside, external circumstances. It could be maybe a sense of obligation or guilt that is making that decision hard to make. And if you go inwards and maybe trust what you really need to do. So that's usually or often the advice for this card. But I think it also depends on what sort of personality you are. So what is your normal disposition? And if you are someone that tends to overthink things, as I do, and my moon is in Gemini, so I tend to ruminate. I will make a list of pros and cons, and then I still don't know which way to turn or where to go. If you are that sort of personality, this card might actually be saying, you've been stuck here in this position for too long. You need to move. It's that old adage of, if we don't decide, if we don't make a decision or a choice, that becomes a choice in itself. Because when we stay in this position too long, what happens, I think, is other people's choices or new circumstances or things change, and then we're reacting to them rather than being able to make a choice ourselves. So if we're too indecisive, we tend to get pulled along by other people who are more proactive. And then we can feel resentful because we're having to adapt to them and their needs. So there can be a lot going on here. I would say definitely if it came up in a reading that you would probably need to pull other cards to try and get some perspective on whether you do need to just take a step back and go inwards. And this is, this status quo or this feeling of a meditative pause, if you like, is what's needed. Or if you've been in this too long and you actually need to take some action. Now, with my song choice, if you bear in mind what I just said about my personality, I've definitely gone for that sort of more second meaning of thinking, I need to get going, I need to move on. I've probably been stuck in this indecisive Libra space for and I'm procrastinating, if you like. And this is obviously the advantage of doing your own tarot deck is you can kind of adapt it to your own personality and your own needs and how you resonate with the archetype, which is why I would think it's such a brilliant exercise to do just for yourself. And I would encourage, if you're at all tempted, to just have a go. My relationship with the tarot has deepened so much through doing this exercise. So this comes from Lionheart. Maybe a picture you have not seen of Kate Bush much. She's standing outside a yellow Ferrari from the 1970s. The song is Don't Push Your Foot on the Heartbreak. So I chose this song really for two reasons. One is I do actually love these lyrics because I felt this stuck in low gear because of her fears. That could be this figure in here. She's stuck in a position, maybe, like sometimes we don't choose out of fear, don't we? We fear that there might be a mistake, we probably, I think sometimes it comes from thinking, oh, there's an ideal choice or something. And we often, there isn't an ideal choice. You just have to go for it and then adapt. So there can be this fear and this anxiety here. There's these choppy waters. There's this idea of maybe she's stuck going along. I mean, I was thinking about I think where the metaphor of the car works really well is that driving in low gear in a car puts a lot of strain on the engine, doesn't it? It's not a very good place to be for the car or for the driver, because actually when you're usually in low gear, it's usually because you're having to stop and start, there's lots of traffic, you could even be a traffic jam, you're feeling pressured by other people. I don't really like driving at all, but the only times that I have really enjoyed driving is when you get on the open road and you're in the higher gear and the car's just humming along. And I think that is quite a good metaphor for life in a way. When we're stuck in low gears, we're kind of being pushed around and by other people, but it's when we get, and it's almost, you can get almost into a meditative state, I think, driving, when you're listening to some music, there's hardly any traffic about, you're in fourth or fifth gear, and it's just, it feels effortless. And that's complete contrast, isn't it, to driving through a busy town. There is an interesting article that talks about a car, a red Ferrari from 1993, which was supposedly owned by Kate Bush. It made me laugh because not only is it a red Ferrari, but it had the number plate "Wow" on it. And I couldn't think of anything like Kate Bush, who is notorious as someone who enjoys her privacy and doesn't like to bring attention to herself. I cannot think of her driving around in a red Ferrari with "Wow" on the number plate. But the story went, I think, that she gifted it to her sound engineer. So I wonder if it was always really intended for him rather than Kate Bush herself. So I'll link that. The other interesting thing about this song is that Kate Bush hasn't said much about this song. I think, all of Lionheart it was rushed out as an album. It's a little bit like the B-sides of Kick Inside, I think. And it's hard, when I'm looking at this song, I really like this lyric and I think that works, and the car metaphor works for this, but there isn't much emotional depth to this song compared to other of Kate Bush songs. And I find the lyric, "Don't put your foot on the heartbreak," it's a bit of a pun, it's a bit corny. I have a soft spot for the song because she talks about Emma, and my name's Emma. And so when I was a teenager, I tried to desperately find some deep and meaningful message in this song because it felt like Kate Bush was singing to me, but I never quite got there. So if you have got an interpretation of this song and what it exactly means, I would, other than it being someone in crisis who is driving madly on the road, I would like to know if you can find some more depth to it. I would definitely like to know that. But what Kate Bush has said is it's inspired by Patti Smith, or it was a Patti Smith kind of type song. And I think I can imagine Kate Bush as a teenager, maybe after Horses album came out, trying to kind of imitate that same sound on her piano. In my 30s, I used to write songs on the piano. And it is actually frustrating to write an up-tempo song on the piano. It's quite hard. Never came, well, for me anyway, never came out quite how I wanted to as soon as you get that movement. And I think that's maybe where the song is a little bit limited. Because later on, of course, Kate Bush had a band, she had a studio, she had, things like the Fairlight and stuff. The piano isn't great at doing, because the sound just decays. A guitar is a lot better, and you know, Patti Smith and her band and stuff were a lot better at doing that sort of music. So I think in some ways she was trying to play on the piano a style of music that wasn't really suited to the piano. I think that's what I'm trying to say. There was also a great video of her dancing. I love seeing Kate Bush dancing. She's such an amazing dancer. She looks a little bit like Olivia Newton-John in Grease. So she's in all the leather. Well, after the makeover, of course, which I liked as well. So I will link that too. Let me know if you've got any other thoughts on this song, or on the card, or on Kate Bush's Ferrari. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye.